Welcome to A Better HR Business, the podcast that looks at how HR consultants and HR tech firms grow their businesses and how they help their employers to get the best out of their people. Remember, for show notes and downloads, go to www.getmorehrclients.com/podcast. That's getmorehrclients.com/podcast. Okay, let's get started.
Hello, welcome back. Great to have you along. And I'm looking forward to today's conversation with Reece Akhtar. Reece is the CEO and co-founder of a very cool company called Deeper Signals. And Deeper Signals, its ultimate purpose is to find and grow your top talent faster. And they help organizations make smarter talent decisions by using science-based assessments and AI to measure skills and personality traits. There's a lot more to go into, but firstly, Reece, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here, and really looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah. And you're in Portland, Oregon. Is that right?
Yes. West Coast of America. It's currently 8 a.m. I think my first call today was at 5 a.m. The good thing is I'm very well caffeinated now, so it's all good.
Dedication. I love it. I love it. So yeah, Deeper Signals, its focus is all around find and grow your top talent. I'd love to hear the story, but firstly, tell us, what does Deeper Signals do?
Yes, so good question. Deeper Signals is in the business of helping organizations understand the soft skills of their people, their teams, and the wider organization, and then helping organizations close that gap using scientific psychometric assessment tools. Organizations have the data to place people in the right roles, give people the right feedback and development experiences that's going to help them thrive. And then as well, make better people decisions. If you can have data on the capabilities of your workforce, you can then align the right people and culture with your strategic goals. So we really focus on behavioral attributes or soft skills, which I think are kind of increasingly important now in the age of AI, as you're having kind of more automation, as kind of the half-life of technical expertise is kind of diminishing. Our uniquely human aspects about ourselves, like our ability to coordinate, to invent, to communicate, are going to become more important. And, I think that's always been true. I think these things have always been important throughout human history, for human evolution. But I think we're kind of going to see that become more and more important over the coming years. So it's like, how can we help organizations get that bit right? How can we help people think more about their talent strategy through the lens of soft skills rather than just previous expertise and credentials, which is kind of how it's been done in the past.
It's probably a win-win both for the employer, but also for the employee, because people are reading, yes, the AI is coming down the line and it's going to change jobs, take jobs, create jobs and so on. But definitely there are certain skill sets that will reduce in frequency, value, whatever you call it. But if there are ways of improving those soft skills that may not be affected by AI, then it's got to help them in their career development and job security, etc. Is that a fair call?
Oh, yeah, I think so too. I think it's right to be cautious, a little bit hesitant or skeptical about kind of the AI kind of boom, understandably so. But I think, you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I think if we take a look at the psychological literature, which at Deeper Signals, we're all psychologists, that's kind of our background. That's how we started the business, how we met. But the more that we can align people with roles, teams, environments that are aligned with their psychology, their personality, their values, the more satisfied and engaged they'll be. And we can put them into places or help them find places where they're going to actually thrive rather than kind of leaving it all up to chance. So I think, it is a big opportunity. It's a big opportunity to help people kind of reinvent the way that they work in a way that's going to suit them best. So it's been an interesting ride. We've been running Deeper Signals now for about 4 years. We've had about 500,000 people complete one of our assessments. We have companies and enterprises that we work with across the world. It's been a pretty amazing experience to build that user base. I think kind of the most amazing things that I've seen is like when we're able to really help organizations get that alignment right, when we can give them the data that they need and make their lives so much easier, make the teams better, kind of deal with some of the friction that we see in kind of the day-to-day of work. It's kind of interesting, when we started Deeper Signals, it was like middle of COVID and I was in my bedroom like everybody else. And then, fast forward 5 years and, this thing has really taken the life of its own.
I want to find out how companies can use it in a moment, but you did mention the background of the co-founders. Can you describe us that? Because Deeper Signals is in not a crowded market, but in a tough sector where you're doing assessments on the soft skills side of things, and there are various ways of doing that. What made you create this? What was the need? And then how did you handle the issue of, well, there are other ways of doing assessments. What should our approach be?
Yeah, 100% is crowded for sure. It's definitely like a Red Sea market. I would say we started the business because we saw there was this huge gap for a scientific set of assessments that were as friendly, intuitive, and kind of user-focused as kind of tools that we use outside of work, right? I think you have tools that are really expensive, really complicated, but really, really scientific and rigorous. And so they're generally used at the top of the organization where there's budgets for them and budgets for supporting or funding the people that need to support them. Versus you then have tools that are really fun and quick and easy to complete, but ultimately have like no scientific rigor or reliability behind them. And so we wanted to bridge that gap. Like the philosophy that we had was like, how can we democratize self-awareness? And that was, using really short scientific assessments to give everyone feedback into themselves, and then using that feedback to make better staffing, development, succession, decision-making. So our approach is like, how do we differentiate? It's like, one, not sacrificing on the science and accuracy of our tools. And we invest heavily in the R&D side of things, making sure that our tools are predicting the things that they're meant to predict. But it's also about kind of using technology in a way that is designed for the end users. And I emphasis on the plural there, because I feel like HR tech generally gets it wrong. It's like we design things for the HR user and kind of the employee or the candidate is kind of just chopped liver, or vice versa. What we want to do is create a platform that no matter what stakeholder you are, whether you are a senior leader looking to make strategic decisions, whether you're a hiring manager or a talent leader, or even an employee candidate, like, can we design something that's going to actually make your lives better in the world of work? And so that means everything from the language that we use, how do we keep it as conversational as possible? How do we make it as quick and easy to use? I'd rather every minute that's not spent on our platform is a good thing, because it's like, it means we're giving you the information you need to get on with your job. And then that's kind of where AI comes into it as well. I think when we started Deeper Signals, or kind of just a few years beforehand, there was lots of research kind of coming out, showing how we can now assess skills using digital interviews and gamified assessments, even scraping kind of your digital footprints. Like, we did a lot of that research too. But it comes down to that user experience. Like, how do you provide something that's short, that is transparent, and that is fair? And so we have very short surveys is the way that we do it, but then we use machine learning to get it as short as possible. And then we use AI to help those stakeholders query their reports and query that data. So whether you're a candidate or an employee, it's like, how can I become a better software engineer? Or how can I become a better sales assistant, whatever it may be? So rather than, needing to talk to, a trained IO psychologist that can help you, give you that career guidance, we have an AI that would enable you to do it. Similarly, if you're a hiring manager, it's not about kind of removing their autonomy, expertise, and decision-making capabilities to AI, but rather using AI to support their judgments. So can we give tools to hiring managers whereby they can create on-demand hiring guides? Or if they've got two candidates shortlisted, what are their relative pros and cons, or how are they kind of gel and integrate with their team? And so we're finding a lot of success there using AI as like an advisor, not as a decision-making mechanism. And I think that has been able to address some of the very real concerns around AI and bias, AI and autonomy, and like a lack of transparency.
I love that. There's so much in there. And so for people listening to this, to pause you there, Reece, because there's so much gold in there that you and the team have clearly thought about the different, not just end users, but the people involved, the stakeholders. We work with so many HR tech companies, and many will just talk about, as you mentioned, just the HR team or just the end users, whereas you're saying, no, you got to think in a bigger picture approach and look at everyone who's involved. And the classic that I always talk about is people in the HR world, software or consulting, will say, let's give a free trial or a free this. It's not always as simple as that. It's not just a case of it's free. So in the HR team's case, yes, the platform may be free, but they then still have to put their reputation on the line to go out to communicate to the workforce. There's a free trial going on. Do you want to go and use it? If it doesn't work, or if people don't like it because they haven't thought about the end user's approach, then they look like idiots. So I love that multifaceted approach you've taken. And then you raise something else, that you're not just trying to keep people on the platform to use it as much as possible, that you just want them to get what they need and then get on with their jobs. And that's a wonderful approach, because a lot of HR tech firms will overthink it. And how can we take the Facebook approach of getting them locked in? And then lastly, on the AI element and the machine learning element, I think that's a thing that people don't quite get, of how AI and machine learning will affect software and being able to use it in the end use case, that you're not just having some AI robot tell us what to do. You're saying, well, how can we help facilitate end users and, as you said, interview guides and self-development guides and things like that. So it's not pushing you down a path, but it's giving you options. So I love the way you've thought about it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like using it as like as an assistant. There's a great professor at Wharton Business School called Ethan Mollick, who does a lot of this work around like how to use AI as a teacher, as a mentor, as a coach, to kind of augment your decision-making skills rather than kind of like automate them. It's very difficult, not to get too lost in the weeds, but I feel like that is going to be a big challenge for society, which is like, how do we use AI as a way of advancing our own critical thinking and not necessarily just automate it. But, that is a conversation for another day. You touched on a really good point, right, around kind of HR users and free trials and so on. I think like a big thing that we have learned, this is the first business I've started. And one thing I've learned, trying to sell to enterprises is, needing to understand who your buyer is. And it's not just HR. Yes, they are the ones that hold the budget, but really the HR manager has to go and sell it internally. They have to go and convince the head of marketing why they need to start using this tool. And then from there, it's like more junior members of staff, why and how is this going to be of value? And so the user experience, making that as compelling as possible, making it as frictionless as possible, and kind of just fitting into the flow of work. It's just been so hard. It's so hard to do things simply. It's so easy to kind of layer on new features and new bells and whistles, but like focusing on the things that really matter, that is the hard stuff. That is the hard stuff for sure.
Just on that, coming with new features in HR tech, but any software, I guess, it's always a tricky thing to get right, because everyone wants something new and maybe there's edge cases or mainstream cases. How do you work out what to build next and what should be in the roadmap?
Yeah, that is a very good question. And it's kind of evolved a lot as the business has grown. We're a self-funded startup, so the way that we think about our roadmap is very considered. It has to be servicing the requests and asks that our current customers have asked for. We have to then also weigh it against the things that are in the current pipeline. And then we have to weigh it against like our overall vision for the company. And it's like a three-legged stool that you're always trying to balance. I think as we have grown, we've been able to better spot what are kind of edge cases versus like what things are going to be of value to most customers. We've got better about asking feedback and kind of iterating before we go and build. That has been a big learning lesson for us. And then it's also about kind of like thinking and trying to really understand the problem that the request is looking to solve, and then see if you can abstract out of it, right? So if it's something around like a custom reporting tool or a custom report that a client is asking for based on assessment results, it's like trying to dig under like, why are they asking for that? What problem are they trying to solve? How is the information needing to be presented? And then can we pair that up with other enhancements that we want to make and create something better rather than just addressing the specific need? Because I think that's sometimes it. It's like client will ask for something and it will solve that problem, but then it will create kind of others. And so you have to kind of think, what technical debt am I creating and how does this align with like an integrated whole? Fortunately, there are more smarter, more competent people on our team than myself to kind of figure that bit out. Our head of technology, David, and our CEO, Uri, with our product manager, Daniela, are fantastic at kind of building and figuring these things out. I'm the one that lobs the requests over, and then, it's their task to figure it out.
It's a great approach. And creating a new product based on feedback and requests. I like the fact that you're looking for new ways on how can we build it so that, in fact, it's even better, and it creates that wow factor if you get it right. So that's a very smart approach. For people listening to this, who is your target audience, your target market, and what are the main use cases in case they're listening thinking, oh, wow, I should be telling people about deeper signals? Who should they be listening out for in those situations that those employers would be requiring?
Absolutely. I would say we typically sell to either people working in talent management. So it'll be kind of either heads of acquisition or heads of learning and development. Broadly, like those are the two camps that we interact with the most. And now, like, we're really focusing on kind of either recruitment use cases like high volume recruitment or internal promotions and succession planning, or on the development side, it's about employee learning and development, giving everyone kind of feedback into their strengths and gaps, or it's around hypo emerging leaders, development programs, or team effectiveness. We have kind of been working more recently on just helping any manager who reaches out and wants to improve their own team's effectiveness, and we can work directly with them. So that's been kind of an interesting opportunity for us of late. But yeah, so the main way that we engage is, directly through HR, around recruitment, around development. And the main use cases are, how can we help you assess candidates' talent for a certain role? How do we then give you the feedback to make that decision? How can we help you give feedback to your employees around kind of where their strengths and gaps are, and then help them close it? And then thinking more strategically around, like, how are you building kind of bench? How are you building the right leaders, the right teams? And how are you going about identifying those future leaders for your organization? Where I want to be taking Deeper Signals, and we already have a few clients that are doing this, is that we can be the platform for the entire talent journey. So whenever you need assessments, you can use Deeper Signals, and what we think is going to be a unique value prop. It's like one set of assessments, but you can use that data in multiple ways. So again, if you think about from a user experience perspective, I'm not taking your people away from the shop floor doing the things they need to be doing, generating revenue, but rather it's a very short experience, and then we can get more value out of the data that we're collecting from that one instance.
So I'm just smiling because back in my early days as a graduate HR professional, I was sent around Australia, city to city, and I was conducting, they'd hire out the huge hall in the university and they'd do graduate assessment questionnaires and one of the psychometric batteries, let's say. But I used to then have to sit there with a plastic sheet that would go over the top, and I'd score them. And then once that was done, it was shredded and it's all over. There's no such thing as compiling that data and then letting it roll on through machine learning and AI over time to build out a career development plan. Oh, those days. On the business growth and marketing sense, what worked in the early days to acquire your first customers, and what are you leaning towards these days? What's working?
I'd be lying to say like we've figured our marketing strategy out. Our founding team, we are all psychologists and technologists, right? So it's like we have deep proficiency in the science and in building tools. Building a sales and marketing arm of the business has been a new opportunity for all of us to learn and to grow. So when we first started the business, I would say leveraging our relationships and our network was absolutely essential. Fortunately, some of our founders have been in the industry for many years, and so have built up a lot of, say, intellectual kind of brand credibility in their own rights that we were able to leverage. And that gave us a huge boost in terms of just kind of people being curious around like what we're doing and who we are. And, slowly but surely that picked up. As we have grown, we are kind of doing the more traditional things like going to conferences and making sure that people are aware of us, but also investing much more in kind of paid online campaigns. And that has been absolutely transformational for us. Being able to kind of find our customers on social media, on LinkedIn, build up our following there, leveraging our own personal brands, and then using kind of interesting content, white papers, things like that, to generate interest has been quite transformational for us. But, HR is, I think in my experience, kind of a very steady, slow kind of sales process. And so the more that we can build relationships, generally the more effective everything else becomes. And so I don't think HR tech is like very transactional. As we said a few minutes ago, there's so many other stakeholders that need to get looped in. And so you can't just kind of like push something, or HR manager can't just buy something and then just expect the rest of the organization to use it. It has to be highly consultative, highly educational, and requires, support. And so the more that we can show up in places where our customers are and build those relationships, start doing the education around, what does it mean to have like a data-driven talent assessment strategy, right? That's really what it comes down to. The product is kind of like the very last thing. And, the technology is the last thing that needs to get kind of solved. It's actually much more around what are you trying to assess for? Because of what problems are you trying to solve? Let's figure that bit out. And then we can think about technology. So when I look at our customers, like we work with a lot of scaling businesses, like companies that maybe like 500 to a few thousand, and they've grown very quickly. They don't necessarily have like a very mature, well-established talent management function. And so we're able to partner with them and kind of guide them through that process and use that technology as a way of supporting the strategy rather than kind of forcing the issue. And then I think when our larger organizations, it's still kind of the same thing. It's like helping them think very carefully about just maybe a more narrow like lens around like what is the problem they're trying to solve. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey. I think it's something that we're still learning, figuring out. And yeah, as a psychologist, it's just it's nice to learn a new skill set.
You described some of the common or typical approaches. That's the founder network. Most people think that a technology firm will be online promoting itself and conferences and all sorts of things. But number one is always the immediate network and connections. I find that time and time again, and then expands out. And yes, you can conferences and things like that. You mentioned the paid promotion. There are 100 different ways you could be advertising on Instagram and LinkedIn and Google ads and newsletters and all sorts of things. Which would be the paid promotional methods that work best for you guys?
It's mainly been LinkedIn, which took us a little while to play with the different platforms to see which ones were going to work best. But LinkedIn, unsurprisingly, was the one. We, of course, invest a lot in our website and trying to make that as like SEO friendly as possible. But with Gen AI and kind of how that's impacting search, those methods are not as effective as they once were. And so it's more about still having great content, but you can't quite drive traffic to it in the same way that you used to be able to. And then on LinkedIn, it's a lot of building audiences where we already have some sort of credibility in, whether it's like the energy sector or financial services firms where we have a lot of customers, and then sharing, interesting educational content. I think one thing we've learned a lot, particularly within our space, you're not pushing adverts. Like selling people doesn't quite work around kind of why your bells and whistles are better than others. It's much more educational. I think people are looking for interesting content that will help them be effective in their roles or help them think about problems in new ways, and then using deeper signals as like the vehicle for delivering that insight. That has proven quite effective, rather than saying, hey, we have the best assessments in the market. That may well be true, but you've got 5 other companies saying the exact same thing. How can I help you think more deeply about the importance of soft skills in the age of AI, and what does that mean for your organizational strategy? That feels like we get a bit more interest from.
Yeah. So for people listening to this, promotional campaigns, I'll often find an ad campaign, whether it's Google, Facebook, or LinkedIn, where the ad is to book a demo, book a sales call, and that's the whole proposing marriage before going on a date approach that we hear about. So yeah, Reece, this is smart, sharing informational content. So it's like a sponsored post to an ebook, white paper, something like that,
exactly,
to a form, and then it goes into the email system and so on. Yeah, that's very smart. And then, of course, segmenting it is really smart too. So, for instance, as Reece mentioned there, the energy sector, you might have a different white paper than you might for a different industry. And then same if you're trying in-mail message campaigns and stuff, different messages for the different segments. That's very, very smart.
I think just at one point, like the pushing book a demo, well, I tried that long and hard for a while, and, it doesn't go anywhere.
Where it can work is if it's retargeting. So if someone's already seen you, read some of your content, whatever it is, then yeah, go for it. Have an ad that shows a book, a demo, something, a call to action is good. But yeah, describe just what the future holds for Deeper Signals, both as a growth side of things and then, your sector as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think like from a commercial perspective or product perspective, like we want to, one, massively expand kind of our library of soft skills assessments. Right now, we measure about 80 different skills. We want to massively expand that. We want to significantly expand our AI capabilities, whereby we can help organizations be more strategic around understanding what gaps they have and what strengths they have in their organization. And then I think commercially, it's around really continuing to build out our sales and marketing function. I think like we have a great product team. We have a great delivery team. Our sales and marketing team we stood up over the last 12 months. We're relying really just on kind of a network and relationships beforehand. I've done an amazing job at kind of completely transforming our pipeline. And so now it's about making that go faster. And yeah, I think that's kind of the big push at the moment. It's just continuing to double down on our current efforts.
And just on the content side of things, for people listening, go and check out the Deeper Signals website, because many companies in any business, but especially in the HR tech sector, they ignore the competition. And you guys actually went the opposite way. I went, wow, this is cool. They've actually called out the different options that potential buyers have, because let's face it, they're Googling it anyway. And you've explained how you're better, different, etc. So you're opening up that gap between you and the other options, which makes it far more likely that, yes, they'll book a demo and learn more, which is always the first step. So that was smart. I really like that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, Reece, you guys have built an amazing product, and I think it's going to go from strength to strength. What should people do next if they have business that they can refer to, or if they could potentially become a customer or something else? What should they do next?
Yeah, absolutely. If you're interested in using some of our tools in your talent decision-making, so hiring or developing your people, if you visit deepasignals.com/podcast, you'll be able to create a free trial on our platform. It comes with a whole bunch of free user licenses, so you can get access to all of our functionality, try it out, use the assessments, and see if you like it. And then if that's of interest, like, we can have another conversation.
Nice. And you're making me laugh with my marketing brain on. There's a page dedicated to /podcast, which for people listening again, it enables you to track your activities and see what's working, what's not, all that sort of stuff. So there you go. Deeper Signals leading the way in so many ways, including the marketing strategy. So brilliant. Reece, I've really enjoyed our chat today, and I love what you built. Thank you very much for sharing your time today.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us today on A Better HR Business, the podcast that explores the world of HR consulting and HR tech businesses. For show notes and downloads, go to www.getmorehrclients.com/podcast. That's getmorehrclients.com/podcast. Remember to subscribe and share the show with any friends who are busy growing a HR business. Thanks, and see you next time.